Virgo denied me.
Oh.
But anyway, I've got a call at 11:15 here with Above, and I'm going to ask them if they have any suggestions. And then I'm also going to get some hints from Corto, like Jason Crow. Have you heard of him or know him? You do?
Yeah.
Like he's into crypto, maybe not to the extent you are, but they're writing open source software with the people he's associated with. Way above my head, but maybe anyway, if I could find out something from them, what they're using and whatnot, I'll share with you, and maybe we can build on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's great. Did Virgo give a reason for their denial?
Do you want me to just forward the email to you?
Yeah, sure. Be curious to see what they say.
It's better you read it than me getting my interpretation.
Yeah. Love to see what they're saying. That's the first time I've heard of someone getting denied.
How come I can't open up my? There we go. I've got to build some more folders in my email here. And that is to hello.
Audrey-Lynn.
Hello.
Okay, it's coming your way.
Perfect. Thank you.
They even say if I figure there's a fraud, I'm supposed to report it to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Oh, wow. So they're thinking, I see. Okay. Well, technically, that sounds to me like they think that you are signing up in response to a scam. And so they're denying, saying, no, we don't, for whatever reason, they feel like you're getting involved in a scam and they don't want to have anything to do with it. We may be able to appeal that. I'll see what it says. All right, we got some stuff to talk about the markets. There was a great deal of discussion over the weekend. Trump had given Iran an ultimatum, and it was not good. If you don't hurry up and open up the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to bomb your fertilizer plants. And apparently, I haven't confirmed this, but apparently the facility that they were threatening to bomb provides fertilizer for like 60% of the world's food supply or something. And so the idea behind that was, of course, a big threat, and there's tons of fear around it. And what was interesting is that yesterday there was actually a journalist that was discussing it, and he's here from Canada. He's very much so concerned about, Bill C-9 and now Bill C-22. These two are particularly dangerous for free speech. And so he was thinking, of course they're bringing these things out because we're not going to be allowed to tell the truth of what's going on in Iran. And I was like thinking to myself, you think that the news you see about Iran, you're in Canada, you think the news you see about Iran is telling the truth? At the same time, things are serious. Things are very, very serious. There's no laughing matter what's going on in the Middle East. And yet, I also, simultaneously, I also will refuse to believe that what we're told is what's happening is the truth. Now, in light of that, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see what happens because there's more evidence in what the response of other nations are than what the news says it's what's going on. We can tell more so what other countries are going to do. I'll give you a case in point. The other countries in the Middle East that see the tension rising, they're all OPEC members, so they are all oil producers for the world supply. Kuwait requires the Strait of Hormuz for 100% of their oil exports. Iraq as well is very, very dependent on it. They've got some pipelines going out to the Mediterranean, but they also use that port, or they also use that strait. They are asking Iran to just lay off, guys. You're not you're not helping matters by making it difficult for businesses to go through the Strait of Hormuz. But then the foreign ministers of Iran are saying they can go. We don't have control over whether or not the insurance companies can provide their services to the ships, and we can't guarantee that the states aren't going to blow them up and say we did it, because that's been going on lots. So in light of all of that, I can only do nothing but wait. But with the Middle East countries, their stance indicates to me that there's a lot more going on than what we're ever told in the media. If Iran was a threat to the Middle East would be siding with Israel. And they would be even allying with the states. But they're not. And they're also not allying with Iran. They're saying, come on, let's be reasonable here. And this brings up one of the things that Audrey Lynn shared with me last week. And that is, what we're watching is the unfolding, the futuristic history. We're watching the unfolding of a prophecy. And in fact, the actions being taken by both parties are fulfilling in an ancient prophecy. And it's almost as if they feel like that prophecy is a part of a covenant with God that spans across centuries. Even though, of course, we know that in one of the reasons why Jesus' ministry was so famous, he was because he was telling people, no. That covenant is old. It's archaic. It doesn't even exist. It's not even a part of humanity anymore. But yet, the political parties that are currently in the trust of the, I don't want to say political elite, I would say global elite, the L-ites of the world. The country's jobs all entail maintaining the charade so that the people do not uprise and end up realizing that they're all slaves and they can just walk off the plantation. the countries, all of them, United States, Britain, Australia, Japan, India, Afghanistan, Iran, Italy, Israel, but not all of them are tasked with maintaining the charade, making sure that everybody keeps that video game console running so that they can all maintain the value of the attention tokens that everybody fights over. As a result, I believe that I wholeheartedly believe with what Audrey Lynn shared last week was that this is simply a prophecy of playing itself out again, because the cult simply will not let go. They will not admit that that is over. That makes sense. If they admit that old covenant was over, they would have to then admit that that they killed the messenger, letting everybody know that the covenant was complete long time ago. And very few people want to admit they're wrong when they're wrong. So, today we're going to be starting off with metals because it's Metal Monday. Silver dipping back down again. Interesting how that is coinciding also with a drop in oil. Oh, that's the daily chart. Sorry. There was a rise in oil today. The overall oil has been trending downwards. It's still in consolidation, but it's definitely trending downwards, even creating some lows down here since October. Oh no, this isn't oil. What? Oil. Yeah, I thought it was down. There we are. That was the US 30. Confusing. Okay, so oil, yeah, we had a drop in oil, but it also coincided with a drop in gold and silver. And even silver pressing quite hard up against this trend line. That long-term trend line that we saw form back in August. Start in August. So that trend line has now been fully tested. We'll see what happens here. If silver can't get back up and I would say above the $78 range, $77, $78, that if it's not able to beat that out, it'll likely come down even further. Technically, we've got a longer term trend line that has been formed all the way since February of 2024. And then another trend line that's been formed since August 2022. So these trend lines, we see them fanning out, like getting steeper and steeper, which is normal, that happens. But technically, the trend hasn't been broken, even though we've passed back through two trend lines. You know, we were drawing the trend lines just to see the acceleration of this, how they were just fanning vertically. Like, look at that, how they fanned out. This next phase, you know, again, I'm of the mind that we'll see another big rise, but that even if it comes down to, say, $29 an ounce, I would say, you know, in this period of time here, you know, $30. That is very well within its capacity to do. If that happens, I think it's going to be all because of manipulation, which they're capable of doing. We know that they're capable of doing it. It's about whether or not they can maintain it to the degree that the rest of the world follows. And that I have a hard time believing will happen. Gold, like I say, also interesting how it actually broke out of that trend line, that short-term trend line, and has rebounded off of this one that stems all the way back from December 2024. This spread is a lot tighter, though, and that usually happens with gold. It doesn't move with the same volatility that silver can. The gold-silver ratio still hanging out up high here at 63 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do some recalculations because we definitely have some volatility here. Gold and silver dropping, Dow Jones rising up again here today from the weekend. And so we've got our trusty calculator, 46,194 divided by price of gold, 43.99. 10.5. And then for silver, do the same thing. 46,194 divided by the price of silver, 69. 669. So there we are. The market's got a little bit more expensive for the first time in a long time. Still, though, cheaper than it was at these lows back in April of 2025 when all of the tariffs were making the world scared. Those tariffs. Look at how that dip happened right after that second high. You know, we are still in accumulation, even though we've seen this decline from the all-time highs of 50,000. You know, we're down 8% in price action. But all we did was that we came back and tested this triple top. You know, it's going to be wild. If there is a crash, I expect it to come back and rest around the highs before COVID. In this area here, this is the zone that I would expect it to go to. Let's even mark this out. The other side of the coin is that I am of the mind that Trump will be lauded as a savior. And if you think about it, if the danger is that, 2 billion people are going to go without, 3 billion people are going to go without adequate food because the supply chains for fertilizer are being taken out, that's a significant threat. And we have to remember that Trump his role is to play the hero. All of the Avenger movies from Marvel over the last 15, 20 years have been programming people for that exact mindset. And you even take a look at how the drama between Trump and Elon played out. It's no different. It's no different than the drama that was played out in, the Avengers Civil War, where, Trump was the good patriot, like Captain America, and Stark was like Elon Musk, the technocrat, the guy that wanted to have control over the tech of the world so that everybody would be safe, right? It's no different, and I see that playing out. And so it's entirely possible, folks, that everything that I've been saying is going to be thrown out the window. I keep talking about how, oh yeah, we're going to see a big crash. We're going to see a big crash. Yeah, well, maybe I've just been programmed to say that. Why? Because it's the cycle, right? It's the pattern. There's a crisis. That's going to require everybody to apply so that we can work our way out of this. Because that's what it was last time. Trump's good at that. He did it very, very well. And I have a sneaky suspicion that even if it does crash, it might not, may be averted. This would be catastrophic. And this is what would be normal. This was what normally would happen. 35 to 40% drop. That's what happened last time. Dropped 37% in a matter of a month. Bringing us back down to this range, 38. That makes sense. And it would be catastrophic for the economy. Because you think about it, 30% of 50,000 is a lot bigger than 30% of 28. Who knows? All I know is that oil dropped, and that was not expected. Although on the micro level, yeah, it probably, if I studied the micro movements a little bit more, probably would have called this out and told people, hey, you might want to short some oil here real quick. It's going to go on sale. But I don't pay attention to it as much as I used to. So what we had was, that drop after the big impulse, because everything's scary now. The war is on. Wars and rumors of wars, remember? So this scary drop then, 35%, everybody was like, okay, we're going to be okay now. Butting up against this resistance point. One more drop down. Probably just to get some of the shaky investors to fold their pockets inside out. Just so that a little bit more money can be taken from the markets. Because this, nothing happened that constitutes yet another drop in oil. The only thing that I can think that maybe, and this is entirely possible, that Iran complied and they opened up the strait. Who knows? Let's go see. Look at me, eh? It's like we're doing market analysis and I haven't even looked at the news yet this morning. There we go. That's 5 days ago. 8 hours ago. Let's see. 3 days ago. Yeah, let's just see what happens here. Yeah, from The Guardian. Again, I don't like looking at the mainstream, but you got to look at it every once in a while so that you can get an idea of where are things at. Now, 14 hours ago, they closed the topic. So... yeah, I'm not seeing anything today. And the other thing is that the algorithms don't like it when I get the news because I don't think it's true anyway. So that's why I like the technical analysis. Just look at it from a technical perspective. What are we witnessing? We are watching emotions play out. That's what we're actually watching. We're watching emotions play out. This created some fear, and it's been stabilized over the last 4 hours. This created the fear. It even happened at 4 o'clock this morning. What was that all about? Who knows? Because guess what? It was when the Japanese markets opened up. Here, things opened up. Where was this? Yep. Right here. Things opened up way below the previous low. Even yesterday when we were having this meeting with these journalists, I was like, guys, like this is the Japanese markets opening up nice and low, but then boom, things spark up. I did say though, however, that the best day to have a crash, 2 best days, if we look at all the crashes that have occurred since the beginning of the 1900s, they have occurred on either Tuesdays or Fridays. So tomorrow's Tuesday. Japanese yen actually increased as well. So because we see the economy got strong, and so then the currency got stronger, and that's kind of, I know it's inverted because it looks like it's going down, But that's because it's going down in the number of yen required to buy a US dollar. So we see an increase in the value. However, it has not created a new low. So we are still consolidating over the last little while. Moving into the tech markets, we've got Amazon hanging out at the top end of this long-term consolidation range, but still creating a downward trend going into it. Oracle coming down from a previous high, looking like it might find some support here. We'll know more throughout this week. This is the 4-hour chart, so it looks a little choppy. Let's go to the daily. Still looks choppy. Look at that. From September 9th, Thursday, or no, that was Tuesday, to the Wednesday, from close to open, it rose 32%. The markets weren't even open. How did it go up 32% overnight? Oh, because it's tech. Google also finding itself some support in that long-term consolidation zone, pivot point. But consolidating, you can see that we've been seeing that narrowing. The highs are getting lower. The lows are pretty much staying the same. This trend line is better reflected here now because we've lasted a while. Palantir rising, on the rise from its same zone of support. Nvidia still consolidating. This area here is significant. See how things progress, but into the digital markets, we've got Bitcoin that is rising in dominance already here today, but still trending downwards. At the same time, while Bitcoin dominance is rising, we see a lot of green numbers in the rest of crypto. For example, Ethereum, also up today. ADA, up from its support. XRP, yeah, lots of green numbers. A few things that are, only one crypto that we watch is red. That's Clearpool. Yeah, I don't want to dive into this too much. It's Metal Monday. If you haven't got some metals, today it's on sale. Any thoughts, questions? I'm just going to quickly look at X in the background here. There might be something in my feed. I haven't really looked at it today. Yeah, so here's what the news is saying. An attack on Iran's southern coast and islands will lead to Gulf routes being cut with the laying of sea mines, said the country's defense council. The U.S. is considering plans to occupy Iran's Karg Island, the country's main oil export hub, to pressure Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to all shipping, according to Axios. I don't know. Not seeing much else. Just other than, oh, the Iran war energy crisis is worse than 1970s oil shocks. I'm not seeing anything else worth mentioning. More than 2,000 people have been killed.
How are they worse than the 1970s oil shocks?
What's that?
How are they worse than the 1970s oil shocks?
Well, its volume. Did I lose a connection? Are we connected?
Yeah, I see you now.
Okay. Did my answer come through?
No.
No. It's just the sheer volume of consumption. Yeah, in the 70s we didn't consume oil at the same rate that we do now. We're consuming a lot more oil. We burn a lot more energy now. We have a lot more infrastructure that's even reliant on oil. Simply because a lot of countries have developed since then. China, in fact, is the #1 consumer of oil. Used to be the States.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's I know, you know what? I'm double guessing. Now I'm second guessing myself. It might not be the consumer of oil. I think what it is that they are the #1 consumer of energy. America might still consume more oil. Look at their military. That alone
Well, it
consumes
would
more
make
oil
sense
than a
that
lot of
China
countries.
is. It would make sense that China is the greatest consumer of energy, simply based on their population size relative to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
No.
I I hesitate to think that they have as big of a population as they say. I mean, they went for 2 generations with the one female only
Then the one
policy.
child,
One child. Oh, sorry,
one
yeah, one
child
child,
policy.
and they would even. I think it was the girls that they would even sacrifice because if they could only have one child, they would opt for a son.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they might have that population, but nicely.
There you are.
Back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole internet, like all the screens went, like all my internet, like even this screen went black and then had to reload.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
know.
hey, Paul, did I miss the
Hello.
part where you were talking about metal being on sale? Is that something you already talked about?
Yeah, you might have missed that. I don't know when you came in, but yes, we were seeing that, today silver and gold both made a
Mm. Oh, frozen. Huh.
strange.
Am I back again? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you went out. So I just heard silver and gold and then bloop.
Yeah. Both silver and gold dipped down, finding some new lows that we haven't seen since before the big
Okay.
rise there in December.
What is it to right now?
Silver is at 69.59 right now.
Okay, so it's still high-ish.
It's still a good price. I mean, yeah, like again, back in December, we were super excited about it. So yeah, this is a good price. I think what we're seeing is just that correction from that big surge, and then of course the manipulation.
Right.
I do know that there are still a lot of, especially the smaller bullion dealers. They're telling people like we're not going to be able to fulfill your order for a couple of weeks. Like we won't even be able to get stock. So, and then there are some.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It must be
Well,
something with the home network, Paul, because when we just went out, I could still hear Zoe.
Oh, you could still hear me
Yeah,
oh
going,
wow.
oh no.
yeah, no worries.
Okay.
It's something curious. It must be going on here.
Yeah, it must be here. Must be here. Well, and I didn't want to go too long today. I've got lots going on today, and I wanted to just do a quick update because the war was causing a lot of people concern, and
Mhm.
rightfully so. The last thing we want to see is more destruction, loss of life, and we don't want to see Trump fulfill on his promises. Yeah, to consider too, like he made a lot of threats last year about tariffs that he never did implement as well. So
Mhm.
it's one thing to go and threaten Iran and the world, essentially threaten the world with hitting their primary exports, but we always have to remember that Trump did not finish his reality TV career with The Apprentice. He's still going strong. And so his job is to maintain that charade. And I have the sneaky suspicion that what we're watching is that unfolding of the old prophecies, and that it has to go this way because the the cargo cults are programmed to perpetuate it. Yeah, I have no doubt whatsoever that the world elite, there's no way they think it's real, but they are very, very apt at being able to convince people that it is real. And that's their job too. That's their job. That's what they're here to do. That's what nature has provided the contrast for, is so that we can recognize the untruths. And without them, how would we learn? Yeah. Any questions or comments? Other things to bring up? Thoughts?
Well, I'm still relatively new to metals, and so I got things below what they're at now, and so I don't know how to gauge when it makes sense to get some more. I'm not asking you what to do, but I'm still educating myself about the whole. And I didn't have a lot, but I got some at like 35, and then I got some at like 49 or 50.
Yeah.
And so I just don't really know how to think about it. Like I kind of just learned with someone local that, so it's not like I've done a whole education on it. So I don't really, I look at it going up and down, and, when it was at 75, I'm like, I don't know. Should this get more? I didn't, because it's so much higher than what I got it at, but I don't know how you gauge, like, okay, this is higher than what I've got it at before, but it's still worth getting some.
Good question. Good question.
I'm glad that's a good
This
question. It doesn't feel like a great question, but
Oh no, that is a very good question. Thank you for
I mean,
asking.
it's definitely a newbie question. It's like I just don't have any framework for it really. The fact that I got it and then it went up makes me feel like I had a good framework, but I don't actually have the understanding, right? That feels like I just was fortunate
Right.
because I knew someone that said, this is, and I wasn't shifting into it to have it go up. I was shifting into it to have some that was in metal, something that was stable. I wasn't doing it as a investment that would gain. I was just like finally getting around to the thing where people are saying you should have some money in metal or some of
Yeah.
your resources in metal. So when it went up, it was just like, yay, that's cool. But it's not why I
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course. The best way for us to determine, whether or not it's good to buy now or not, is to look at history.
Mhm.
And I'll tell even my story. when I first found out about the fraud of the financial system
Mhm.
was actually in 2008 before the crash. But it
Mm.
wasn't from the perspective of the crash itself. I was not so lucky enough to know to know that it was the mortgage markets,
Mm.
the real estate was going to be crashing. And that I did not know. I simply found out about the fraud of the economy and how it was based off of the social security numbers or the social insurance numbers, which represent a financial instrument that's traded within the US Securities Commission.
Mhm.
And recognizing that that's what the economy was based off of, and that was, I called it slavery with extra steps.
Well, and also like Social Security, like I'm just hearing that now and going, security for whom?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, it's super secure because these little cows that are roaming around, I mean not cows, humans that are roaming around on Earth, they have this natural instinct to stay alive. So you can actually oppress them and they'll keep pressing against your oppression, making more money for you. Really, like, it's amazing. What a system.
Yeah, cows
And
don't do that.
what's that?
Cows don't do that. We do that.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it's a we're a
I'm
better
bringing up
breed. Yeah.
I'm bringing up the analogy because I don't know if you know about this or not, but um, it's called cowgorithm.
Oh, I think I get what I had my own understanding of what you were using.
Here we go.
That we are
The tax cow, the
got it.
tax cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is an interesting one, a development even. We heard about this last week about how there are collars that you can get for cows, just cows. And those collars, they track the movement of the cow all over the farm. And that now they're installing electric fence or not electric fences, those invisible fences that will make the cow uncomfortable if it gets close to the edge so that it goes back, into the field more. Doesn't try to escape. And so this program was actually built, by the free market. And look at that. Peter Thiel now backs the cowgorithm. Peter Thiel.
Wow.
So we know that that's coming for humans. Because what a great system. I mean, imagine that. You don't have to go herd your cows anymore. All you would have to do, like to go from field to field in the past, I remember growing up, there were cattle drives that went by twice a year. Because they had to move the cows around, right? They used the road. Why? Because there were fences in the way. Well, now you can actually herd your cows by satellite. That's what the cowgorithm is. And so Peter Thiel backs it now, of course. Yeah, so there's some more history just unfolding itself beautifully.
Go, Peter.
So going back to this, we look at history. I've got the weekly chart on now, and I'm going back in time to when I got started with all of this. 2008, it was in this area here where I found out about what the heck was going on, where I kind of clued in to what the economy was. Took me long enough. I was 28. What an old fart by that time. Like, you'd think that as smart as I was, that I would have figured it out sooner than that. But anyways, then the crash occurred when silver went down super low prices. And I hadn't even considered getting into metal yet at this time. I was livid. I was livid that everybody was like, and then not only was I cursed with the knowledge of it, I was cursed by being absolutely surrounded by people who thought I was crazy for thinking that way. So double curse. It's terrible. And it was finally in 2000, towards the end of 2010. So here's towards the end of 2010. This area, yeah, probably November, December. Because I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I started a property management career in this area here. And this is when I took my first paychecks. And I was sinking 20, 30% of my paychecks into silver and gold.
And what
And
was
then
it?
it went up to the previous all-time high, which was from 1980. Yes, indeed. If we go back in time, we can see that metal prices had reached that high back in January of 1980.
Wow.
So I bought really at pretty much the dumbest time. You know, like I remember buying first ones being like 30, $35 an ounce US.
And what was that peak, or that, not peak, the opposite of a peak, that low right before it? What was that at? I can't read, the print's too small here.
Oh yeah, no
Like,
problem. This area where it rose from, that was $18.
okay, and then down below, where to the left a little bit, where it's really low, what was that? Oh, froze again.
And I'm back, I hope.
Yeah, you look so thoughtful in your freeze.
Yeah.
You look like the thinker, you know. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I was considering, yeah, that was 2008. That was like this is the crash here, right? So
So what's it?
that went down to $8
Oh
and
my
58 cents.
gosh. Wow, that's low.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when I bought up here, I was actually very much at the wrong time, right? Because I mean, I didn't even get to sell. You know, silver went up 50%, sure, but I mean, I kept on buying because I was like, it's gonna go higher.
Right.
The whole system's collapsing. That was me in 2011. I thought the Great Reset was gonna be done by 2013 when I bought my first silver. And then I continued to buy, and I continued to buy, and then I stopped around in 2012 because, because people said I was crazy. No, it's never been that high since the 80s. It'll never go that high again. We're going back down. And they were right. We did go back down. And then I can remember in 2000, because then in this area here is where finally my family made sure that my family made sure that my legacy was broken. No, you don't get to behave like this anymore. And in fact, 2 weeks after my wife left, my dad came to my house, shaking like a leaf with the paperwork for our for my youngest son to be registered as a Canadian. You make him a slave, God damn it. And that was how 2014 went for me. So I started in this area here. It was 2015, 2016. I had to sell some of my metal because I was homeless. And so, yeah, I made a big mistake by buying it here, didn't I? Was it? Was it though? As time went on, we can see that here we go. Let's go through this, right? Here's December 2023, or sorry, September 2022, going into 2023 here. And then February 2024, we made a jump up. And we just kept on creating new highs, new highs, new highs. Here, this was September, October 2025. And we came right back up again to these old 1980 highs. And we did not even get pushed by, we didn't even get resisted by that price like we did last time. It shot through, found support off of that old high, and now has gone up. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit to the daily chart so we can see a little bit more detail on it. You were saying that you were considering buying at 75. Well, it's on sale from the last time you considered. And so automatically, it would be prudent to reconsider. If you've got the money, it would be a wonderful idea to get some. Not because I think it's, not because, you think of it this way. I didn't buy at the wrong time. I just bought at a high price, right? That's all. This is not over. We know this isn't over because in order for the machine to keep running right now, look at all the data centers that they're building. The demand for gold and silver is only going to go up from here because they have yet to finish pulling the rug from underneath everybody with the digital ID.
And that's also what's different than before, right? Because now there's a lot more industrial need for silver. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So that's what makes it different than when we were looking at it in the past, because it's got a more important function than it used to have. This is my very beginner understanding.
And now I'm back. Bill C-22 was passed last week. So that might be why we're experiencing this.
I don't know what Bill C-22 is.
In Canada, Bill C-22 makes it where the government can tell an internet service provider to turn someone's internet off if they don't like the data that goes through their connection.
Oh my gosh. We're there.
You were there. But back to metal. This is the demand is only going to go up because it has to. They need to get as much out of the people as they possibly can. And what they did with COVID by squeezing the wealth out of the people then was just stage one. Just stage one. They have another phase to go through. There's going to be another massive crisis that requires people sign up for more digital IDs just like they did last time. This time it'll just be more entrenched with, Palantir. Peter Thiel. He's with Palantir. Palantir, the surveillance company that provides all the artificial intelligence for the military. Yes. Palantir, here's their stock. And this is a newer company, right? They just got started back in 2020. Of course, just the name Palantir, referencing the orb that Saruman has in Lord of the Rings, which allows him to see everything happening in Middle Earth. Palantir Technologies. That alone is going to necessitate the AI infrastructure that they're building. And in order to get people to do this, like look at what's going on. Was it you, Audrey Lynn? You told me about the data center that's being approved for nearby here. But
Yeah.
Wayne was telling me that there's actually 3.
I recall that now. And it's mind-blowing as to how this area could qualify for that, other than the fact that we have a lot of water.
Yeah, well, about that, it is the Canada is home to 2 million lakes. The next in line has a larger landmass, Russia, with only 700,000. America is like 250,000. Those are the first 3 in line. So Canada, when it comes to the number one resource that the destructive elite and their technology requires, Canada actually has the largest single largest storehouse of value in water. And when you are taking into consideration that data centers, for them to be approved for building, they have to be installed near a body of water, either a freshwater lake or a river. That's
So
for
the
them to
ones
get
in-
approved.
So the ones in this area are pulling off the North Saskatchewan.
Correct. And in fact, there's a lake in Texas that since the data center has been installed by 7 or 8 years or something like that, the level of that lake has significantly dropped to like I think it's down 30% or something like that. So they are consuming the water. They're not recirculating it like, how you're supposed to do it with, green ideologies and planet saving practices. Because, global warming is such a terrible idea or a terrible thing, and we have to do everything we possibly can to avoid it, including consuming all the water. Why do you think Michael Burry did what he did after he, walked away from his 40 some million? Didn't he get something like a $40 million check for his trade? Got to watch The Big Short again so that I can find out how much he got paid for that good call. He left his position and bought water stocks. He knows. So, coming back to your question, Zoa, I'm hoping that you can still hear me.
Yep.
That you are not in a bad position to buy. This is only going to go crazier as time goes on. And the next kind of point of resistance that we can expect, we're going to use good old Fibonacci for this one. I don't usually use Fibonacci to determine where things are going, but whenever we are looking to see where, like, we're going into uncharted territory, we use Fibonacci ratios to get an idea. And simply because the market moves in those ratios, it's the funniest thing. I'm going to actually do this as a quick demonstration. We see Fibonacci ratios in nature everywhere, from everything from the backs of turtle shells to sunflowers. And the same thing occurs in the markets. And so to give you an example, I'm going to bring things down to a low here, and then zooming out, come on, I will bring it up to the high. We can see that generally speaking, it's not pinpoint accuracy. Math is not an exact science, as they say. But that we can see that this impulse that occurred from this low going up to the next high, before we created another low, that trend, we call that an impulse. And that impulse we measure as 100% of the impulse. The retracement, or the movement coming back down, usually finds itself a support on one of the Fibonacci levels. And in this case here, it came down and found itself at the 38.2, the inverse of the 61.8. Then, after that, we can see that it went up, and look at that. It went up and just touched the 1.236, which is another Fibonacci level. So then after that, what we do is that we move our lines so that we can see where does it go next. And we can see that it retraced back down again in a very, very deep retracement, came back up, found that resistance again, and we can see that the majority of the time, oh, look at that, it went down to the 38.2. This little dip here was an exception, but that on average, you can see the most of the time it found support at that 38.2. Where did it go after that? Oh, look at that. It actually went up and almost reached the 2.272. But you can see that first extension found resistance at 1.618. So it's just a curious tool. It's an idea, it's a measurement tool to see what kind of movements can we expect. It's not a tool that I use to determine, what's my exit strategy. It's just simply good to get an idea of what kind of movements we can expect. So what we do is that we take the previous low down here from October 2025, and we line up the bottom of the Fibonacci tool there, and then we take the top of the Fibonacci tool and we bring it to the fullest extent of that impulse. So there's the impulse. We stretch it across and we can see that we have come down and we found support at the 23.6 level. And that means that we can expect it to go to the next Fibonacci sequence. Where is that? Well, typically speaking, the 1.618 is the most typical place where we see resistance after another impulse. Well, what is that? Well, that is the $167 an ounce. So that's where we can expect the next movement to go.
Wow.
Well, what's that in translation to where we are today? Just under $70, going up to $167. Come on. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. There we go. That's a 141% increase. And there will be no problem doing this. We have to remember that the reason why we hit the highs that we did in 1980, and that's 2011. Let's zoom right out. The reason we went up to these highs, like, look at that. Look at how crazy it went in 1980. Coming from the lows of 1971 at $1.25 an ounce. That's $1.25 an ounce. It went up 35 times in a matter of 3,000 days, 10 years, less than 10 years. At this point here, this was because we had experienced the first rug pull on the American economy using oil. That was a small number compared to the infrastructure of energy and necessity that we have experienced today. So 1980, we will likely never see these prices again, simply because I believe we're going to see a transition into a whole different monetary system requiring something other than a dollar. That, in fact, due to inflation alone over the next 2 years, I expect to see 2 impulses. We've experienced the one impulse and the retracement, but that we're going to experience 2 more impulses after this. Well, what does the next impulse take us to? Well, 167 is impulse 2. Impulse 3 will likely take us to the 3 level. So that's where we triple this whole thing, this number 1 movement. So we'll be skipping right past. We might have some resistance at $217 an ounce, but that it likely won't stay there. It'll likely extend. Where do I get that? Well, if we take the impulse projection of $167 and we put that up to the 167, we make that the 100, and we bring this down here, we can see that the next impulse at 168 is 232. So that'll be impulse number 2. Impulse number 3, again, if we take the 100 and we bring it to 232, and we bring this back to, say, oh no, I forgot. Oh man, I'm getting lost here. I need to mark these out. Okay, so that's the first one. And then we look at the projection of the next one, which would take us to 229-ish. And then from there, we say, okay, where is the retracement? Likely, we'll see the retracement come back and hit these previous highs. That's the most likely pivot point. And then we make the next projection. There we are. So the next one up beyond that is 293. So $293 an ounce. Now, that's just doing a technical analysis of this period of time. We have to consider two other things when we're looking at this chart. Number one, the tech industry. Everything is going into digital currencies. So we're going to be seeing a transference of wealth from one form into another. Largely driven by metal, simply because of how much metal, conductive metal, is required to build these data centers. The chip manufacturers, they didn't stop. They didn't even slow down buying metal when the prices went up as high as they did. Metal prices went up. Look at that. Just in the last, since the previous highs from 2020, it's risen. It went up 300%. The tech companies did not slow down their ordering. They sped up during that time. So the volume of metal that they bought while it was going higher has reached all-time levels because they have to keep building compute. That's what the whole conversation about, Oracle, NVIDIA, and OpenAI is all about. That little incestuous circle of money passing around, where it is just money circle going around and around. It's a great big Ponzi scheme, and they're all just giving money to each other because they need to. Why? Because Project Stargate had to be, what was the budget on Project Stargate? $500 billion? And it was just toward the end of last year, the companies were saying how they had to make sure that another 250 billion was earmarked by the government because we're going to burn through that 500 billion. So $750 billion now is being said to be needed in order to support the next phase of the reset. Well, now they just last week said, no, we're going to need $1 trillion. And we expect $5 trillion in return over the next 20 years. So that's a good investment. Why do you think so many of these AIs were free? It's because it's the data that's the commodity. The data is the commodity. So with that occurring the way that it is, gold and silver are going to become a rare earth metal. Yeah, technically they are precious metals, right? But now they're going to become rare. Simply because the demand for the chips are going to go so high. And it's not even necessary. That's the worst of it. That's the saddest part of the whole thing. None of it's necessary because, like, we were talking about this about a year ago. Zoa, this is going to be new to you. But, what was it called? Xtropic. Xtropic is a company that is building a thermodynamic computing technology. Thermodynamic computing is a whole different architecture for hardware. And what it does is that it reduces the need of electricity by about 10,000 times and increases the computability by a factor of 200. And that's just the prototypes. These are not in production, being mass produced right now. Here, this website, you can't get the chips. You become an investor if you want to help out. They even have an open source Python library. Python is a programming language. that lets you start programming for the next generation of chips on your local device. So you can start developing software for these new computer chips. And this is a whole other mindset. We have computer chips, like when we were looking at the computer chips of the gold standard right now is NVIDIA. These are the gold standard for chips for AI. These are called deterministic chips because they are built to do a certain thing. Deterministic. And they can only do the certain things. And our computers have the same technology in them. They're deterministic computer chips. When you go to open up your email app, there's a portion of your computer that's dedicated to processing your email app. When you go to open up your voice recorder, there's a part of your phone that is dedicated. That's all it does. It's just a little deterministic computer chip. They call it a core. And it processes your recording app. These are deterministic computer chips. Nothing wrong with it. It's just good to know that that's their job. Their job is one thing. If you try to get those chips to do something else, it's a train wreck. They're not built to do those other types of tasks because they're deterministic. Each core has its determined processes. With extropic and with these this is now probabilistic computing. Whole other approach. Because what AI is, what people call AI, first of all, for clarity, they are not intelligent. They are very stupid. They are just computers, and computers, being stupid, can only do what they're told. Like most humans. Audrey Lynn, you got your hand up. You want to say something? Oh no,
No, I'm stupid because I can only do what I've been programmed to do.
Yes, exactly. You are deterministically programmed.
However, we can undetermine our programming, which is not.
Yes,
the chips don't have that option, but we do.
That's right.
We
And
may
in
not use
fact-
that option, but we have it. And in terms of what people talk about the shifts that the planet's going through, which, I don't have a way to check or, check that out. But apparently that opportunity is increasing.
Yes.
But so is the effort to distract people from the fact that possibility exists.
Yes. Absolutely.
That was fairly concise, wasn't it?
That was beautiful.
It's almost like I'm catching on.
I don't have to present the rest now. on other thoughts about this is that to really get a picture of the power behind probabilistic computing, and you're right, humans, they're probabilistic because we have what's called a probability curve of events. So the things that could potentially happen to us follow a probability curve where it is very likely, based off of the beliefs that we have, that these events will occur, that we are going to process information in a specific way. That's the probability effect. Well, probabilistic computing is leveraging that principle, which is the core foundation of how LLMs work. Large language models. What people say, they use the term artificial intelligence, but it would have to be intelligent in order for it to be artificially intelligent. It is probabilistic. It's just a computer that calculates the probability, the most likely outcome that would satisfy the input that you give it. It just think of it as a really sophisticated autocomplete. When you're typing a text and you can just go ahead and click the button and it finishes typing all the words, so you don't have to click 20 buttons
It's
to
so
finish.
annoying because it usually wants to say something that wasn't at all what I was going to say.
Oh, I know. And
but that's what it is. You're right. And then
That's what it is.
there's add extra insult to injury or injury to insult, however that goes. I think it's ChatGPT. If you put in a query, It has the nerve to say thinking.
Yeah.
And it's
No,
like,
you're,
no, you're not.
not.
You're
You don't get to
scraping.
think.
You're scraping.
They all do that.
Yeah.
They all do that. They all say that. In fact, Claude makes fun of it. And they'll put in all kinds of different words instead of thinking. Flibberjiggitting.
Perfect.
Which is probably more
Flibberjiggitting.
accurate.
Have you ever flibberjigitted?
I probably have. I don't know.
Yeah, flibberjiggitting.
Did
What's
they ever
another
say
one?
just hallucinating?
Yes.
So to
Oh.
come back to the conversation about
Sorry.
chips and the thermodynamics, because I'm curious, sorry.
Yeah.
They won't be requiring the gold and silver. What components would they be requiring?
This is where we get into nanotechnology.
So then the graphenes and the carbon forms of substances.
That's right. It's a whole other material. Gold and silver will still be used in many facets, but not for the conductivity aspect.
So
They're not
then
going to need.
if one had the funds and the compute to research that avenues to invest in such materials, just because it seems like that's as interesting as gold and silver are in this moment. It's I want to know what's coming next that might benefit from my attention to investing in those resources.
"3D printing filament." Because it's not so much it's wonderful to know that 3D printing is evolving into nanotechnology, where now you're going to be able to imagine what it is that you want, and a machine will be able to program a nanomaterial printer, the filament, the nanofilament, will be able to, the computer will be able to assemble the patterns in the most probable pattern that fits your need. I'm of the mind. Oh, I have to sneeze again. Hang on. It's not quite passed. So I'm of the mind that it's going to be a matter of people having a nanotechnology driven computer and printer in their garages, similar to what we see now. People get these 3D printers and they're putting them in their basements or sometimes their living rooms, and they're printing out all kinds of toys and taking them to market. I believe that we are going to be seeing filaments be used in our homes because it's all going to nano. And we're going to be like, oh, I like this idea of thermodynamic computing. Let's build one ourselves. And that people are going to be building these next generation of computer chips in their homes. Oh, and if you don't have one, that's okay. Someone in your community already has a 3D printer, and you can bet your boots that they're getting ready. They're positioning themselves, especially the ones that are of like mind. They are already positioning themselves to be printing nanotechnology. And we know these guys have already said, yes, we're designing this wonderful thing and you can invest in it, but just to let you know, we're going to make it open source so that anyone can build them. And that even the chips that aren't being developed, that are probabilistic. Oh yeah, let's just touch on that one more time. LLMs are probabilistic, and yet currently today they're being run on NVIDIA chips which are deterministic. How limiting! You have a probabilistic computer chip running probabilistic algorithms and language models. You're opening up a whole other door of possibilities beyond This is a renaissance, folks. Like, we're not going to look, the world is not going to look the same in 5 years at all. I think people are going to be printing their cars in their garages. And they're not going to be cars in the way that we think that they are. Like, think about it. We've been using the wheel for quite some time. You'd think that we would have, come up with something else to get us around, to teleport the body around, right? That yes, we're going to be entering into an age of renaissance that changes everything. You put those probabilistic machines onto probabilistic hardware, and that makes it where NVIDIA and all of these data centers become irrelevant. I think what's going to happen is that those data centers in 5 years are going to be paintball arenas, where people are going to go and they're going to be simulating warfare in an urban arena, because they're not going to have any other use. It's a rug pull. Remember, they know exactly what they're doing. Like, it's not like NVIDIA and Oracle and Amazon. It's not like they're stupid. They know exactly what's going on. Why do you think we're watching Oracle? We're watching Oracle now because for 2 years we've been watching BitTensor. And BitTensor is just the next version of it. BitTensor and NVIDIA just signed a contract last week. So this is where the money's going. We're going to see it leave Oracle, the centralized deterministic model, and they're going to the institutionalized, decentralized version of compute with BitTensor. That's why we're watching it. And we're going to be observing as these next 2 years play out, we're going to be witnessing the crash of the Oracles and the Palantirs and the NVIDIAs and the OpenAIs. We're going to be watching them eat their own tails. And eat each other too, I think. I mean, already we're seeing it happen with between Anthropic and OpenAI. OpenAI has failed miserably at being able to appeal to the enterprise users of AI. Anthropic nailed it, and they're dominating the marketplace, making money, whereas OpenAI is not making money. They're losing approximately, was it $1.5 billion a month or something like that? They're not even making money, and they're not even trying to. They went this model because they wanted the user data. They wanted to catch up to Facebook and Meta. So that's why they did that. But now they're shifting. They're recognizing, okay, well, if we're going to make this work, we got to start appealing to the enterprise. And so I think we're going to see OpenAI actually, basically pull the rug out from underneath all of the consumers that have been using it, because they're not making money off of them and they got to start.
So if they know that the data centers are going to become obsolete, why are they? I mean, that's not very for the investment that they're putting in. 5 years isn't a very long time to get their money back out of it. So, I mean, they know all this stuff more than we do, right? Like where it's going, and that's going into thermodynamics and stuff. Invest so much in data centers, not just money, but everything, the resources, because those are very expensive paintball arenas.
Good question. Audrey Lynn, you've been a part of the conversation for a while. What are your first thoughts? Why is it that they are going in? They know better than to do this. Why are they doing it? Why are these big companies investing so much into technology that will be obsolete in 2-3 years?
I think it comes back to that question of rug pull, of here's the shiny thing over here, invest all your time and energy and resources here, while over here there's something that's way more important. And so it's the data that they're seeking. And once they have the data through the data centers, that data is way more valuable than the physical center itself. When the data goes decentralized, when it can no longer be controlled, that will be a much different game. But for now, stealing away the water and the metals and the human activity to create these data centers pulls it away from what we can be doing with ourselves and our time and our resources in the interim. To me, I see it as like a multi-level rug pull.
Yeah, you're saying it basically the same way that I would. It's their job is to keep the charade running, and they will capitalize on it. They're not looking to get a return on the money. They're looking to simply get everybody to be on board with the next version of a war bond. And that's going to be the stable coins. And that we're all going to be fighting over which of the stable coins. I think just the concept of that alone is just absolutely absurd. But I think where people are going to start fighting over which stable coin is the best one. And it's going to be based off of which AI is winning. I know. Zoa, I'm saddened by it too. It's like you have to laugh at it and cry at the same time. It's mixed emotions. Kind of like I would say mixed emotions would be similar to, watching your mother-in-law drive herself off a cliff. Mixed emotions, there's on the one hand, but on the other, it is hilarious. And I recognize, and this was a pretty serious conversation I had with Wayne Peters yesterday, because he has demonstrated such patience with humanity. And I asked him, I said, how do you do it? Because I'm at the point now where I can empathize with the eugenists. I can see just how useless some of these eaters are, and just how much of a hindrance their incessant voting for the system is creating havoc upon everyone. And then beyond all of that, when you go and talk to them and actually come down to their level and get them to talk and share what's going on inside their minds, they bitch and complain about the environment they elected. And I told Wayne, I said, I really do struggle. I feel like we should just celebrate the next swath of people that are depopulated, simply because it's going to make it easier for the righteous to have some traction in their work. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm still struggling through that. I know that it's because I still look at a lot of things I do in my life with a lot of disdain. I still look at my life with frustration, anger. Why do you keep on doing the same things you don't want to do anymore? So I project that out when I go and I look upon the world. Don't hold forgiveness for humanity, because I don't hold forgiveness for myself in many ways.
I guess my compassion and patience, if you want to hear about it.
Yes, please.
Comes out of an understanding of what people are at the effect of. They've been programmed and conditioned to be the way they are. They've been disconnected with the brilliance and potential and capacity that we have. I mean, so I have some understanding of the power of psychological torture, of which we're all being subjected to in a big way. Like, torture works, trauma works, and it's being utilized on a daily, hourly basis. And so I've kind of gotten past my, why did they go get the shot? Why
Yeah.
did they? I don't know if we're on YouTube or not, but it's like the things that are good about humans have been weaponized against themselves.
Yes.
A lot of people
And
are still acting on, I'll just use good as a shorthand, but good impulses. They're still acting on those. It's just that those have been weaponized against them.
yeah.
So they're still doing things with the idea of, this is how to care for my loved ones. This is how to care for society, even people I don't know. This is how
Yeah.
to be a good citizen. This is how, and that's a lot of the, even a lot of the wokeness and the virtuousness it's all based on those things that are what make people human. It's just been, so I'm not quite sure what's coming out of my mouth, but it's, I don't necessarily look at humans and see humans. I see the programming coming through them.
Right.
And I include myself in that. Do you know what I mean? Like, just like you're saying, it's like every day I'm going, why am I still doing this thing? And sometimes with compassion, I'm like, because that's what's available, and because the amount of shifting that I need to do to be different is wide, and it's not being supported. Like, I'm already so far out on the fringe of what is most people are thinking is going on, and so I kind of hang out and plateau at this level where I'm, whatever the habit is that's not helpful, still eating some ice cream. I don't know. That really has it's not serving any function, and I could replace it, but it's like a little comfort seeking, I guess. So I don't know. That's some stuff off the top of my head. And some of the people that we have been listening to, I've really come back to my love for humanity, and I had lost it. I was just like, people are so stupid, and I've come back because I see people doing things that it's like, oh, wow, that's really amazing what people are doing. And yeah, they're doing it within the game that they're in, right? Like, they're playing the game that they're in.
When I see others' behaviors, I'm often reminded of, oh, right, that's what I did when I was behaving that way. I behaved that way when that was going on. Who am I to judge them? Ooh.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I can judge them when I clean up my act. Oh, I haven't cleaned up my act. So stop judging.
Well, and you can also see the possibility in them. Like, what did you do in 2008, Paul? Like, wow, you turned a corner. Everyone else has that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at my own incapacity or incompetence or whatever, and I realize that some of those people that are not aware of what's going on now will wake up and bypass me very quickly, probably in being effective and making changes, and
But what if it's not their path to do that this life?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing I was going to say is I see the impulses actually coming through people within the narrative that they're in. It's still, I see the impulses coming through. I have a friend that's very, very deeply in the narrative. And in the last 2 weeks, she's been emailing me. She's shifted from, I think it was Gmail, I don't remember, to Proton. And she's sending me encrypted emails that I need to use a password for. I haven't made that shift yet. I'm going to this week. But I haven't, but she's doing it to escape the current administration. She's doing it to escape fascism, blah, blah, blah. So she's got a different narrative. I'm like, hey, the whole global thing, it wasn't that great 3 years ago either, folks. But so I'm just saying, with a different storyline, I know in other people, a family that has moved out of the metro area and gone up north 2 hours and has they're living on land that's raw. They've been figuring it out, and now they're doing like a horse rescue sanctuary. They're completely entrenched in the medical model, but they have completely changed their lives and given their children, their 3, 4, 5 kids, a different environment, that they're outdoors a lot, that they're, so it's like I see that and I can't join it because I don't resonate with the medical stuff, but they've changed their lives hugely. And those are people that are, pretty well resourced. So it's not us scrappy little people. I don't know.
Yes, and there's a maxim of law that I have to remind myself on, and I usually do get to it a lot sooner than I used to. And that is fraud vitiates everything.
Vitiates means it like what, takes the guts out or something? What is it vitiates? It's not good.
Yeah.
It's harsh.
Vitiates means to basically wipe clean.
Right.
There's a when it comes to equity court, if 1 cent is earned under fraud, it makes the whole agreement null and void.
Wow. And so what we're dealing with is not only fraud, but it's fraud made invisible.
Yeah,
When
it's
people
fraud of
talk about the
identity.
hidden presence, it's like if people could see what was actually happening, they would not be going along with it. But we've actually
That's
been going along with it for centuries, and so it just seems right and normal, and we believe what's been told about it.
Yep.
So the fraud is hidden. That
And
makes
I
it
would
even
say
more
that,
lethal.
yeah, for sure. And that to unhide it requires a comprehension of identity, because the fraud is identity fraud. People are literally running around like chickens with their heads cut off, believing that the reason they wake up in the morning and go to work is to ensure that the social credit score, I mean monetary credit score, is sufficient so that they can be approved of by their friends and family, and especially their governments, because, if you can't afford the newest truck when you're in, rural Alberta, there's something wrong with you. And that's the identity theft, right? Is that people have been entrenched in that idea that that's who they are. They are the number that the government assigned them. They are the cow on the field with the collar. And especially, I can see it. Like, think about it. Those wearable watches, the wearable Fitbits and stuff like that, they're stylish, right? It's a different kind of collar, and it's not going around your neck.
Yet.
But yeah, not yet anyway. Yeah, that'll come.
And they're literally
or like the
monitoring your
chip
sleep
implant. Got to do the chip implant thing.
for
That's
convenience.
yeah, super convenient. I think that even we're going to see chips that are luminous under the skin,
Oh my God.
because it'll be a fashion statement. They can do it. We know that they can do it.
Right, because that's how they're checking some things out. Do you have the whatever?
And we know they can do it because people love to show off their identity.
I don't know your
Forgive
setup
them.
here. Or
They don't know what they
is
do.
this a private conversation that you're recording, or are we doing all this on?
Oh yeah, no, we're totally going broadcasting on YouTube. That's why I don't have any, and nobody ever follows me. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I've been at it for 90 minutes, and I still have zero viewers. So
I'm not used to being on YouTube though. It's not something want to be having these conversations on.
I hear you. I hear you. We do when we do the next gen merchant stuff. That's all private. We record it, but it's all privately recorded. We don't share that one. And I've got to get going. I've got more reading
Right.
here now.
Is it possible to cut this off after your market analysis, and I will be forewarned in the future and not delve into these things on?
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking that it's going to get to the point, especially when things become more consistent with multiple members, where I'll probably just end market analysis at 45 minutes, and then we just continue hanging out after. Because the conversations are rich and
Yeah.
even necessary.
Yeah. Well, it's a great conversation, and I would have been even more, whatever. But yeah. But I did this kind of not sure and thinking we must not be. So I'd rather not be. I'd rather have it cut off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's not a fully informed consent thing, and we don't want to do that.
I hear you. Okay, wonderful. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Audrey Lynn. It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.